All right, Rob, we're back again for this week's sermon talk back. We have our appropriate distance here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the sermon Journey to the Center of Patience. And you opened there was a statement by Fred Craddock that I think kind of sums up what we're getting to with these talkbacks, which is a lot of times the preacher feels like we're just sticking a hypodermic needle into a tombstone. We're not, there's so much more. It goes so much deeper, especially this topic of patience. So I wanted to know, what are some things that informed you when you were going to preach the sermon, and maybe some things that didn't make it in, or because the topic of patience is so deep, specifically the prophet you chose too, Habakkuk.
Yeah, I mean, I think preaching should always begin with scripture. And I found myself, even months before this sermon, saying, Habakkuk, he needs to have a word with us. Because that famous quote from that first chapter, he says, how long, how long? Mm-hmm. And I was, way back in November, I was thinking, we got to get Habakkuk in the sanctuary and speak to us, because we're beginning, I'm hearing myself ask that question, others. So it was almost like I wanted to have a couple of layers of the patience. One was just how everybody feels about life in general. You get up and something like life happens. Life is made up of interruptions, broken plans. But now then the pandemic came along, and it's like that was on steroids.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about all the things. And then I think it hit me, the timing of preaching this sermon was right at the anniversary of us. Like this Sunday, I believe, will have marked a year ago, the last time we worshiped together.
Yeah.
So then I asked people from the church to respond. How long? What have you missed? And so you're saying to yourself, and I think I thought I'd get maybe 10 responses, and I've got about 40 or 50 more than I could use. And that just said to me, it's real. But then I think the other layer is the deeper layer. Habakkuk, he wasn't just dealing with the pandemic in his day, the Babylonians being at the gate, but trying to serve the purposes of God. And that's where the Craddock thing comes in. You get up there on Sunday morning, and sometimes, come on, God, show me some change.
Yeah.
Is this going anywhere?
Exactly. I loved when you used the how long statements, because there were you shared some more with me and Luke in the conference room before that sermon. There were just so many, and some are lighthearted. How long till I can watch college basketball in person? And we have many of those things. How long till we can get back up to
be in a movie theater again? And what would be one that you would say?
For me, there was a few. One was, how long until we can celebrate the life of my grandfather? We never have got to do his funeral, as so many of our congregants have had that same experience where they've had a family member die in a different state. And we have, how long until, we're going to have some semblance of closure for this? And then on a lighter side, how long until we're all going to be able to be together on Sunday morning, and not just for worship, but how long until Suzanne and I can sit around a cup of coffee with new members, or, how long until we can go to lunch as a staff again? These sort of questions.
I think people, hear us having staff meetings, but we haven't been together in the same room as the staff for this entire period.
And even during staff meeting, even if I'm here and you're here, we're still in separate office rooms, trying to continue to maintain that distancing. And so I think, like you were saying, that the twofold nature of Habakkuk's question, not only how long until this is going to, be done here, but also how long until there is an inbreaking. And you had something about this at the beginning that I jotted down, that if we want peace or purpose, that we might have to put it together
in short strings.
Ourselves. And that really stuck with me, because when this pandemic started a year ago, in our minds we said, we'll be closed down for 2 weeks, everyone will wash their hands, and then we'll come back and have a triumphant Easter, and Easter will be so much better. And now it almost seems like we're trying to hold on to the little pieces over the last year and hold those together and make it seem right.
And then if normal life, and then add to that pandemic life, requires a lot of spiritual patience, I would contend even more for us as Christians, because here we hitch our wagon to these really big social hopes like peace with justice.
Mm-hmm.
And do we see breakthrough moments? Yes. Have I experienced some transformative moments as people have shared their resources and time for those causes? Yes. But the other thing I said, very similar to the Socratic thing, it's not just preachers, but lay people. You know, we gather to go out there and fight and make moral improvements in the world. And sometimes we feel like we're a teaspoon, holding a teaspoon before an ocean. It's just such, it takes so long. We don't sometimes see anything, you know, really happening. So the thing I loved about Habakkuk, he gave me a little word that I think it's a good, he said, he went on a watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
And I said something about, because I have spent a lot of time in the woods. They always say, when you get lost, go high.
Yeah.
Get on top of a hill, climb a tree if you don't have a hill, and you can kind of get your perspective back. And I thought, so the first chapter here, he's asking these really hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
How long, how long? He gets to the second chapter. He says, I went on a watchtower, and he stayed there long enough till he heard a word from the Lord, and the Lord said, it may be slow in coming. But it is coming.
It is coming.
Yeah.
And we, you know, this is something that's, I think all of us on staff try to keep in our preaching, is that idea that it might not be tomorrow or the next day, but the kingdom of God is coming and it breaks in. And sometimes you have to get up on top of the watchtower to see it. And, you know, you use that great illustration from Shawshank Redemption, hearing Mozart's what was it?
The Marriage of Figaro.
The Marriage of Figaro.
That's when the sopranos go off. There's this duet, you know.
And people not even understanding the words to it, but for them at that moment, that was the kingdom in breaking for them. And you know, you and I have a love for bluegrass music and folk music. I know you used to follow the Sons of Ralph, and you told a story to me one time about when Ralph played for the Queen.
Yeah.
I wondered if you'd share that, because I think it fits in with, to me,
the music of the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Ralph was such a great but humble musician. So he's on the world tour with Bill Monroe. And this music historians know that this is when bluegrass music came out of the hills and the hollers and went worldwide and got a whole new listening audience across the world. And it was Japan, Germany. And so I'm asking Ralph, I said, give me some highlights. Japan. He says, well, I learned to eat some new food. You know? At Germany, he said, I learned, you know, that they had great Wiener Schnitzel and, you know, cabbage or sauerkraut and that kind of thing. And I said, England. And he goes, Buckingham Palace. And I go, oh, you mean you went on a tour? And he goes, well, I don't know if you call it a tour. You know, we went there and we played a little music. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's just me and Bill and Jed. And I said, well, like, is there a little? He said, it wasn't a real big room, but the Queen was there. And I said, well, how many other? Well, maybe 7 or 8 other people. And I said, well, Ralph, did she like it? And he just stopped for a minute. He said, well, Rob, I saw her tapping her toe.
I love that.
So that goes into the line I was using at the end, that, you know, hope is hearing the music of God's present and future. Faith is tapping our toes to it right now.
Exactly. And that immediately took me to that quote from Ralph. And it also just reminds me of like everything seems so heavy right now. And we do cry out with the same voices, Habakkuk, how long?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there have been these things we've pieced together, these things that we hold on to. And, you know, the audacity of faith to tap our toes or to dance along to a future tune is who we're called to be as Christian people. And so I just imagine, you know, the sounds of Ralph playing and the Queen, you know, tapping her toes, all this reverence and who she is, but there below her feet can't but help but move. And you know, there are days where it feels easier to have a stiff upper lip and kind of soldier on, but that the sound of God's kingdom still has the power to make us move.
I really like that. I really recommend this as a good read. It's a 3-chapter book.
Yeah.
You can sit down and, one night before you go to bed, and you go from that first chapter, the second chapter is on the watchtower, the third chapter, he kind of ends with this, even though the grapes on the vine wither, and even though the fig trees are fallow in the field, God is my God. My feet are sure as the feet of a deer on the mountain. And so that's how he ends after the.
I love that.
Something I'd be willing for us to do right now. I'm sure some of you are listening to us talk and say, well, okay, Rob, Patrick, how long do we get back? And what's happening and what are we doing with that? I guess right now I don't have a date. I do feel a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Now we're hearing that most Americans can be vaccinated that want to by the end of May. Here's what we're doing. Our property committee, our trustees are taking some real steps to do some things with our air ventilation, air handling systems, UV lights, so when we do come back, we're in a better place than we've ever been. We're studying models of how many people, when we make that first move, could we put in the sanctuary at a time? So I don't want people to think that we're not having those. And it's not just the staff. I mean, we've got
a lot of committees and
administrative board, trustees, groups that are helping us have that conversation. I just don't want people to think that those discussions are not going on.
Yeah. And even though we don't yet know a date, we do have, just like Habakkuk, times of little glimpses, and that'll kind of happen this week and throughout Lent, almost like a soft opening, or we'll have a time where the sanctuary is open from 10 to 11, where people will be distanced and you'll be brought in smaller groups, just for a time of, peaceful meditation, a time for furthering your journey to the center of faith during this Lenten season. And that'll be, in a way, some of our little glimpses. And like Rob said, just know that it's not like we stand with y'all and say how long and we're not doing anything. There are things in the works, and we're hopeful, and we have some of the most faithful serving congregation members that y'all have all asked, and now we're working diligently in that direction.
And so the times will be between 10 and 11 on each Sunday on out till Easter. And we're not talking about just minimal safe distancing. It would be at the max, pushed out a lot farther than that. Very few people in the room at a time. Frankly, we're not even sure how many people are ready for this, but for those that have asked, we're going to make that available, and we'll have some members of the stewardship committee that'll be there kind of outside greeting you and leading you in. I would imagine the amount of time you'll have in the sanctuary, if we have a number of people, would be in like 10-minute
increments at least.
But by the way, there is a possibility of an outdoor service on Easter Sunday, a sunrise service. Some of you remember our rabbit when we had the outdoor service. So we're going to have fine Easter worship with really some very imaginative and great choir music at 8:45 and 11. But the possibility, if the weather permits, to have a sunrise service at Rabbit
would be fantastic. Well, we're off the hook for a sermon preview this week because that'll be coming from Luke coming up. So we won't leave you with a sermon preview, but we will remind you that we still have the Advent devotionals that are online, and you can either order a physical copy from Amazon or download a digital copy from the website. And other than that, we'll be back next week, and we'll sit down with Luke, and then Rob and I will get to grill him on the depths of Psalm 51 and what he really thinks about it. So be looking forward to that. And otherwise, you have anything else for him, Rob?
Enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
It was good.
Well, I hope you guys get out and enjoy the nice weather. We'll see you soon.